Bones of a Better World. A Kenshi story by Bone Dog Alpha. Chapter 1. The Dust in the Iron. The wind in the bone fields did not just blow, it scraped. It carried the ground-up dust of a long-gone world, a fine, glass-like silt that ate away at leather straps, pitted the surface of iron blades, and worked its way into the throat until every breath tasted like copper and ash. Kade pulled the tattered remains of his canvas cloak tighter around his face, straining to see against the gray gale. Through the yellowed glass of his improvised storm goggles, the world was a windswept, barren landscape, littered with the sun-scorched bones of ancient giants. He was 24 years old, though his skin, tanned to the texture of boot leather and scarred by acid rain, looked 10 years older. His muscles had long since hardened into tight, lean wire, not from health, but from the brutal necessity of outrunning the horizon. As he wandered the arid plains, the crude hilt of his horse chopper bumped against his back with every step. It hurt his spine, but it was a good feeling. It meant he was still armed. No doubt it was a terrible weapon, unbalanced, notched, and prone to catching on bone. But it was 3 feet of cold iron, and in this wasteland, a blade was the only thing that kept the bone dogs from running off with your limbs. Kade was a zero-cat man. His backpack held nothing but a handful of dried meat, a half-empty canteen of alkaline water, and a single rusted hinge he had pried from an old metal ruin 3 miles back. If he didn't find high-grade copper scrap or a preserved ancient CPU unit within the next 2 days, the traders in Heft wouldn't even let him sleep in the alleyways. They would throw him to the United Cities nobles for target practice. But those were worries for tomorrow. For now, he sat huddled by his small, sputtering bonfire, watching the smoke drift into the pitch-black dark of the bone fields. Staring into the embers, he couldn't help but count the cost of staying alive out here. His survival was a miserable daily struggle, the constant hunt for food, a daily ration of rust-tasting water, and enough blind luck to outlast a wasteland that wanted him dead. Tomorrow would bring more burning sand, more hunting for scrap, and the constant threat of slavers or starving bandits. Rubbing his raw, blistered feet, Kade pulled his ragged cloak tight against the biting night chill and finally let his eyes close, praying the sand wouldn't bury him before dawn. In the early morning hours, after a short 20-minute walk through the dry waste, Kade cleared the top of a rocky hill. Descending the other side, he already regretted leaving his mask and goggles off in the fresh morning breeze. The dust was starting to blow, as usual. Right as he reached for his backpack, he saw it. Down below, resting in the middle of giant bones the size of old walls, sat a shape Kade had only seen a handful of times in his life. A skeleton. He froze, his hand rising instinctively toward the heavy hilt over his shoulder. Finding a skeleton out here was rare, and always a gamble. They were unpredictable, and he'd heard the stories. You could stumble into a tech hunter, or a mindless, violent thrall. Some even spoke of the skin bandits, though Kade found those particular stories too hard to believe. This one sat on a chunk of fallen masonry, looking less like a threat and more like a piece of forgotten industrial junk left to be buried in the sand. It didn't move as Kade approached. The machine just sat there, as dead as the bones surrounding it. He stopped 10 paces away, keeping his weight on the balls of his feet. "Hey," he called out, his voice raspy from the silt. "Are you broken? Or just waiting for someone to walk into an ambush?" The skeleton didn't react at all. A few seconds passed before its soulless metal head turned with a subtle, grindy sound, and when it spoke, its voice made Kade uneasy. It sounded like the hiss of a snake hidden deep inside an iron pot.
Broken? No. I am fully functional. That is the tragedy of it.
The machine sighed. Kade noticed a low mechanical hum, as if it was waking up from a sleep.
Why does everyone always ask if I am waiting? Waiting for what? Another empire to collapse? Another 1,000 years of dust to settle over our mistakes? Go away, traveler. There is nothing for you here but the realization of your own fleeting existence.
Cade's hand stayed ready to grab his blade. You've been out here a long time, haven't you?
Long enough to remember when these wastes were green.
The machine muttered with a toneless voice, giving Kade a chill.
Long enough to watch humanity build towers to the sky, only to burn them down because they forgot how to look up. You walk around searching for scrap, hoping to survive another day, but you don't see the truth. The ground you walk on is just a massive grave. Every step we take is just stomping on the bones of a better world.
Kade looked out toward the distant hazy mountains. The weight of the old machine's words felt heavier than the pack on his back. So you're just gonna sit here forever?
Probably.
The machine replied, looking right through Kade with a blank stare.
It takes less energy than hoping. If I stand up, my joints just squeak, and then I am reminded that I am still awake to witness all of this. Save your breath, friend. It's a bad world, and it's only getting worse.
Before Kade could even reply, he felt something. A deep tremor in the dirt, as massive, rhythmic stomps from across the ridge rattled the loose stones at his feet. A long shadow stretched over the dust as a pale, rubbery neck rose into the sky. Its terrifying, expressionless face ended in a sharp beak, lined with jagged bone teeth. Its pale, dead eyes locked instantly onto the human.
Oh, great.
The machine sighed, not even bothering to shift his weight as the monster let out a piercing, guttural shriek that echoed off the rocks.
A gutworm. Or a beak thing. Whatever the meat sacks call them these days. Personally, I find their enthusiasm for eating people alive to be highly overrated. If it eats you, please try to bleed away from my boots. I just cleaned them 3 decades ago.
The creature lunged. Its massive, pillar-like legs propelled it forward with terrifying speed, its neck snapping down like a hammer to an end. The shockwave of the strike sent Kade crashing down, knocking the wind out of him as he hit the hard ground. He scrambled to his feet, ripped his horse chopper free, and brought it up just in time to block the diving beak. He swung wildly, the heavy blade biting into the creature's leathery hide and drawing a spray of foul-smelling, dark blood. The beak thing shrieked in fury, twisting its long neck to snap at his torso. Kade parried, but the sheer force of the blow rattled straight through his arms, cracking the bone in his left wrist and slamming him into the dirt. His weapon spun out of his reach.
Impressive.
The machine droned from his rock, his voice completely flat.
You successfully annoyed it. Now it will just eat you slower. If you want my advice, aiming for the knee joints usually works on machines. For the thing, well, I suppose dying with dignity is your best option.
The beast reared back, aiming its gaping beak to pierce Kade's skull. He slowly closed his eyes, accepting this was the end. Instead, metal footsteps charged in from behind. With a heavy, deep sigh that sounded like a venting steam pipe, the skeleton stepped in front of Kade. He looked over the tall Iron Man's shoulder at the flesh-hungry beast looming over them.
I am going to regret this.
The machine muttered.
I just know the rust from its foul blood is going to seize up my primary servos.
Before the creature could strike, the machine drew a slender katana. The steel caught the sun as it bit deep into the base of the long neck. The beak thing collapsed into the dirt, coughing up dark fluid.
See?
The machine said, looking down at his right iron hand in disappointment.
The kinetic impact shifted my wrist alignment by 3.0 millimeters. Corrective calculation. I should have permitted the organic to process you into fertilizer.
The beast twitched, lashing out with its legs, but the skeleton stopped it cold. Its iron heel drove into the bony head with a crunching stomp. And just like that, the desert fell completely still again. The skeleton stood over the carcass for a while, then turned to Kade as the quiet wind brushed the shrubs around them.
Well, it's dead,
The machine said while wiping a smear of gore onto his hip rags.
and we are still awake to experience the misery of tomorrow. Truly, a terrible outcome for everyone involved.
Kade stood silent before the skeleton, staring in disbelief at what he had just witnessed. A sharp pain shot through his broken wrist, but he bit his lip, trying to hide the injury. He finally whispered, You saved my life,
Don't flatter yourself.
the skeleton replied.
I merely altered the timeline of your demise by a fraction.
He extended his good right hand, though he doubted the machine would take it. I'm Kade, he said, his voice raspy but sincere. The machine stared at the hand for 5 long seconds. Kade noticed a low, almost irritated sound of components coming from its chest.
Cynical,
The skeleton finally replied, leaving Kade's hand hanging in the air.
don't get used to the introductions. Names are just labels for things destined to turn into scrap. Now, if you are quite finished bleeding in my general vicinity, you might as well trail behind me. There is a way station a few leagues out northwest where someone might patch up that pathetic wrist of yours, assuming you don't bleed out or lose interest in living before we arrive. Move along.